Alright, we're back working on the 58 here. That'd be a panhead. We're getting ready to replace these cups here in the frame. They don't look too bad, rusty or things like that, or pitted, but they are worn. You run your finger across here, or thumb, in my case, you can feel the waviness in there. I don't know if you're picking up on the camera and the reflection, but it's got wear spots in it. The lower one's a lot better, but it has a little bit of wear in there too. So you can see the discolorization right there. There's a little bit of wear in there. And over here is a little bit deeper. So they both need to be replaced. To replace those, you have to knock them out of the frame. They're pressed in. So here's a new one right here. And basically got to hit it right here on the back side right here. And knock it out. So I take an old axle, it's one of my tools, and just use that to come through on the inside like that and just beat on it with a big hammer. That would be the big hammer. Now this is the tree that came off with a bearing on it. Before you put it all together, you want to make sure this bearing is good. So you put it on there and feel it and make sure this doesn't rock around. If it rocks around a little bit, then that means the bearings are a mismatch. There are two different bearings out there to use. Here's the bearing. The bearings have a different angle to them. So that means that the angle right here is different. It's laid over a little bit different. It also has fewer rollers in it. This is the fine roller one. The other one's more corslet because it's missing a roller. So it looks a little bit different too when you look at them. But when you put them together, you always want to make sure that your bearings fit. You know, the race and the roller fit together. Like I said, if they rock a little bit, they're mismatched. Don't use them. Get the correct parts. So I see a lot of mismatched ones come through the door, so I want to make sure they're good. Now this lower bearing looks like it's all right. I don't see a lot of damage on it. And the customer doesn't want to replace everything, so we'll keep the lower one. I'm going to put a new upper in it and then change out the cups. So what we'll do. I also made a new tool for beating them in with too. So I took some hard rod I got. So a big piece of bar stock. And you hit right here in the bottom of the cup right here, like that, right there, and you hit your big steel hammer here and it knocks it in. Okay, first thing I do is knock it out. I want to protect the tank a little bit so the cup blows off, it doesn't do too much damage. It's not very tight. There we go. So it just pops it right out. No biggie. Bottom one comes out the same way. This one's a little tighter. See, I moved out of the way so it wouldn't hit me. It still landed on my foot though. Today I had my boots on though, so it didn't hurt. Okay, now the new one should go in tight. Even though it sounded like it was tight, because it has that heavy ring back, there was still a gap between the cup and the frame, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that. But you want to make sure there's no gap when you look through here. And there was a gap right there, even though it sounded like it was all the way in. So So I want to make sure they're in there all the way. That one looks good. Now sometimes when you beat the other one in, that one pops out a little bit, so you might have to do a little dance back and forth a little bit. If they're in there tight, you don't have that problem, but sometimes they do that to you. So we got another new one here. There we go. Feels good. It looks good. Try the bottom again just to make sure. Alright, they're both in there good. Tools out of the way. We don't use those tools anymore, pretty much. Make sure the bearing feels good. Yep. Take our lower tree and make sure it feels good. Feels good. Okay, so we go ahead and lube these up and put them in. So I got my new luber here, or my old one. I put some new grease in it. Basically, you put the Timken bearing in there, you push on it with this, and it lubes the bearing. That's how it's supposed to work. So, supposed to lube it. It's not lubing very good. So it's not sealing the part we need to seal against. So we flip it over. I haven't used this in a few years. I remember it only worked one way. So now we'll try it the other way. It appears to not want to work that way either. Still doesn't want to work. Now it's working a little bit. I can see some grease coming up between the roller right there. So we'll give it a little more push. Oh yeah, that's starting to work now. See that squirting grease up between the rollers there? Oh yeah. It's really got some grease in there now, see, it's well lubed. Okay. So now it's well lubed on there. So you just take it and roll it across the top. Get the grease out of the inside a little bit. That's some weird smelling grease. It's just some special stuff I got here. Some Bill Ray brand. We're experimenting to see what it is. Sure stinks a lot. That might be good or might be bad, I'm not sure. It just stinks. Okay. Goop up this one up here. Nice even coat in there. Bearing on top. Clean off some of my grease. top of that. Just even coat. Okay, that one's done. Good group at the bottom. Okay, now we want to put a little lubricant on this one here. So we just pack some grease in here. At least the best we can. So just pack it in there as much as you can. Work it in a little bit. Okay. I like to put a little bit of grease up here in the threads. So when you put the nut on there, it goes down a little easier. It's also good for making a mess. That's always a good thing too, right? I gotta find my nuts. Okay, I found one big nut, one small nut. Small nut goes on the bottom against the bearing, top nut goes down the top of the tree, squeeze it together. What you don't see is a dust shield. So these are your dust shields right here. So this is the lower one, which is a small one. We're not using. And this is the top one, which is the big one we are using. Get plastic on here. So make sure you get all the plastic off the inside here. You don't want this going into the bearings, so it'd be kind of a bad thing. So just scrape it all off. Okay. Now the top cover covers up the whole cup. The bottom one goes inside the cup, so it's a bit smaller diameter. But you want to make sure they don't interfere when you put them on, so they don't drag on anything. So this one does spin freely. If they bind up, then you got to figure out what the problem is and fix it. Okay, we're going to put on this new top tree, new to him. So this is the correct top tree. This is the 59 and earlier, which takes the solid amount of handlebars. This is the 60 and later tree, later being up to about 84 at least. And this one has the two-piece handlebars, so it has a narrower bolt pattern on it. There, flip it around so you can see it. So you can see how the bolt patterns are different. This one is narrower than this one. So this is the old one-piece bar, this is two-piece bar. Now this tree is 72 and earlier because it has a press-in rubber mount. 73 and later, they remachine it differently and they have the separate rubbers with a sleeve that goes in it. So this is your 1960 through 72 tree. You can interchange with a later tree, it'll still fit, but they are different. This one here is by itself, it only fits the early bike, so it's solid mounted. No provision for rubber. The rubber's actually built in the riser if you have that style. Alright, so it goes like that. You gotta make sure the nut shoulder here, the tall shoulder, fits inside of the tree without any binding, which it does, so that's a plus. Now this is serrated right here because you have these holes right here, and the locking tab is supposed to go in there and lock those in. And the locking tab is usually a steering damper piece, but most of the time they don't use those anymore. Alright, so we can go ahead and put this on now. It usually works easiest to push the bearing down with your fingers and then push the stem through it. Start a nut. Just go ahead and tighten that on down. Should go on nice and free. So far it is. Okay. Okay, now you adjust the bearing by tightening this nut up to make it tighter. Get the grease wiped off. You have to do that as it's fully assembled though, you gotta work it back and forth. Because as you tighten this nut up against the other nut, the thread collapses on the lower nut and makes the whole bearing stack tighter. So you have to kind of work back and forth between the two nuts to make it work. We're not using this tree. We're using this tree. Now these are some kind of a lock washer goes on there also, which I don't have on there right this second. Because we need to figure out the torque. Can't do that until I get the rest of the fork assembled though, which we haven't done yet. At least we got that part of it down there. Tighten it up a little bit. I'm using a top tree as a tool. A little tighter. And the whole thing's going back and forth though. Just take a screwdriver and push on it. A little tight. Alright, made it a little bit tighter. Still pretty loose for now though. Alright, that's it for that part. So now we get to decide what we're going to work on next. So we gotta either put the fork together, which is all laying over there in pieces, or I got to work on the rear wheel, rear brake, and all that stuff. So we'll make a decision in a couple minutes. We'll be back. All right, we're getting back on the fork now. So these are the fork sliders here. So we gotta go ahead and put a stud back in the bottom of here, and then we gotta go ahead and change out the seals up under here. There's only one seal up under here, so you're gonna pull it out. So let's go ahead and work on that a little bit. So first thing I do is get the stud back in the hole here. You make sure the threads are good. They look good. So we'll do that. So I get the stud right here. I'm going to wrench to tighten it with. And we need a little red Loctite. There we go. Everything you need. Amazing how that works, huh? All right, now we need a tripod. Quick change, right? We use red on studs because it wants to stay in. And when you use blue on the nut, you get it back out again. It's about the same depth. Need a precision measurement device. Here's one right here. It looks pretty close. Not much more. Okay, so we'll let that set up, and then hopefully the nut will come out without unscrewing the stud again. That'll be the next problem. Okay, so now I'm going to get these fork seals out of here. So you just got to take a clip off, and then use a big screwdriver or a seal puller, whatever you got, pulls it up. Just got to make sure it's not real thin because it'll push on just a corner and screw up the fork leg. We don't want to be doing that. Alright, so we're going to go over here to our vise. We need a smooth jaw vise. See how that's not smooth? See how this one's not smooth? So that means we've got to go way back over here to this one right here. Yeah, that one's smooth. Let's use that one. There we go. So you got to have the right tools to use over here. All right, some more right tools. Okay. Seals. Hammers, important. And a big screwdriver. See how big that is? Nice big long one. First thing I do is pull the clip up. Just going to rig the camera up a little bit. Alright, so you got to pull this clip out of here. One clip. Felt. Another little retaining washer. That's what holds the felt down, see? So the felt is basically a wiper. It keeps the dirt and oil from going, or not dirt and oil, dirt and water from going down your fork tube and rusting it. That's its job. Then you have the seal underneath it. It actually be the sealing. So there you go. You got a single lip. Seal's all they got on that. Clean that all out. There's what that looks like now. You know, make sure there's no big gouges or anything in there where somebody took it apart wrong. So this one looks pretty good. Put the other one back in here. Do the same thing on this one. This one looks fairly new. I don't think these things are very old, but we don't know, so we have to put new ones in it just to make sure. Here's what I do. Instead of using a felt and one seal like this, what I do is I stack up two seals like that. Then you put your retainer on there. That way you get double lips of seal holding it. Makes the seal a little bit better. Still isn't much to write home about, but better than nothing. Okay, you get it started. And you put your driver in there and nail it down. All the way down. in there like that. Get a little closer. Yeah. That's as close as we can get and still see what's going on. Okay. So I take another seal. And put it on, get it started. I'm working around the circle. Once you get it started, you put your driver on there, knock it in. So you got double seals in there. Put your washer back in and your snap ring. Wipe off the snap ring there. Doesn't appear to want to go in here. Look like we have quite enough room for the snap ring and the washer. So we're going to take the washer out. We don't really need to have it in there because the snap ring will hit against the seal, or seal it against the snap ring, however you want to do it. Now it fits in there, so the seal can't come out with a snap ring in there, so we're good. So now we got 2 seal lips to seal with instead of 1, and if you get water and stuff in here, oh well, you get water stuff in there. It's supposed to be inside of a cover so you don't get water and stuff in there, so we sacrifice oil sealing over water sealing. Okay. Make sure you don't mix up the new ones with the old ones. Piece of metal there. So you don't hit one spot, move it around, get it to where it'll start going in. You have to compress the seal to get it to go in. If you just hit it one spot, you can bend it backwards on itself and it'll never seal. That would be a bad thing. Snap ring again. Boom. Make sure it's in there. Alright, so we're good to go now with that. That wasn't that hard to do. Okay, grab all those tools. Go back to the other bench. We'll tighten that up. Okay, 2 fork tubes. Go back for another walk. Now we got to do it way down this end of the bench. Get our assembly area here. First you got to make an assembly area. Alright, there's a nice clean assembly area. Very important. So a little bit of oil, fork oil. imported parts. Somewhere we have an oil beaker. There's one. It's very important to keep your tools clean. See, somebody was using my tools and didn't clean them after they were puking in them. So now I have a mess to clean up. That's always fun when they do surprising like that. Some people just don't care what they do around here. This is real getting muck growing in the bottom of that container. Alright, so clean that out. Get a little bit cleaner. Just do a little final cleaning on here though. Get cleaning solvent off of it. Okay. There. A nice clean container again. The way it should have been left on my bench. See, I clean my tools when I'm done with them. Evidently other people don't care. It happens. Alright, so need two of these. We need two of these, which are the tops. Now on this bike here, you cannot put oil through the top because you have a baffle system in here. So you have to put the oil in the fork before this goes together. This goes in the top of the fork tube. Right up here, where the threads are. And on the bottom we have a damping device down here, tube. And that goes in the bottom. And all your little dampener stuff is inside here along that snap ring. Make sure you wipe the dirt off this stuff because it's been sitting around for a while. Now the area right here where the seal goes, you want to make sure it's pretty clean and not burnt up. The side up here where it's all rusty doesn't matter because it's in between the fork tubes, so it doesn't really hurt anything. You got to watch out for burrs like this on there. I'm not sure how that happened. I didn't do that, I don't think. Somebody definitely was in there with a pair of channel locks or a monkey wrench or something in there. I'm not sure what that was. I don't use those tools, so somebody did. I have to watch the video we're taking apart, see who did that. Pretty sure it wasn't me though. Okay, this is the other one. See, it's got a nice good layer of rust on it. And down here where the seals go and bushings go, it's nice and clean. So that's what you want to see. This one has a tube down inside here, the dampener tube. So we get that out by taking the spring and trying to get the tube to come back out. So you can see how it's off center a little bit, so you have to go in there and center it up a little bit. Use your finger. When you get it just right, it pops out the bottom. And you got access to it. Now these dampener tubes here, this little oval part here is what goes inside the fork tube that keeps it from rotating when you tighten the nut down. The sealing area is actually this edge right here. It has to be nice and clean because that's where it's going to actually seal against. The other piece is the foot piece. Sometimes you call it an elephant foot, but now it seals on the inside of this because it goes on top of this, like that. So you have a seal that's inside on this surface. Oh, there's the missing gasket I haven't found yet. It's inside of here. So there's the gasket. That goes in like that, and there's another gasket it was on this surface here. And that's what seals it. Now going inside your fork tube right here, can see how it has that oval slot in it, and the bolt just sticks through there and seals it. Just assemble this up a little bit here. So we've got to keep the spring right here that keeps tension on it, so you can assemble it. Okay, so you can see how the screw comes through the end of it right there. That's where the nut goes on it. Now you do have to rotate it until it goes into the slot. If you don't have it inside the slot, it will leak like a sieve and come loose later. Very important that you do that. Now this nut right here, it doesn't matter if it's got sealer on it here, because it doesn't. If it gets to this point, you have a big leak anyway. You're not supposed to be packing this thing full of goo. A lot of people do. If you put it together correctly, you don't need to do that. It's a matter of doing things correctly. Now, way down at the bottom of this thing, the very bottom down there is where this gasket seals against. You got to make sure that's clean out of there, not full of crap. So this one looks good. This one over here is the other one. You can see how it's nice and shiny on the bottom. That's a good sign. We've already cleaned the muck that was in these out of here. Okay, here's the other one right here. I'm gonna make sure it's clean and flat, because that's what you're sealing against. This one looks pretty good. You can take the two and rub against each other, make sure there's no high spots. There's a little bit of rust residue, which is probably the gasket residue, but other than that, they're good. Okay, so those can all go together. So we got one locking nut, hole on the bottom. That's all I found so far. Looks like we only got one locking nut. Now Harley pretty much just uses a lock washer to stand our nuts, what they usually use on stuff like this. So I'm going to go ahead and give me two brand new lock nuts for here, to seal that, to do that. And then go ahead and put this thing together. Be back in a second. Okay, got two brand new nuts now. So those will do, put them on the bottom. Alright, so we got to do a couple things with sealer. I'm going to use my 3-bond sealer. With this, I really don't even need to use a gasket if I don't want to, but if there's a gasket there, I'll keep it. If it's not there, I'm not going to sweat it. The sealer will do its job. Put a good thick layer of goo right here. That's what you're sealing against. It's one of the few spots I'll put 2 layers of goo on here to get a good layer of it. We'll put a priming layer on there, let it sit up a little bit. We'll get the dampener. So we got the gasket right here. Pull it back a little bit. Put the goo on there. And then put the gasket over the goo. Nice. The camera just got gooed up. Somebody put goo on the camera. How'd that happen? Yep. It's hard to get good help these days. Oh yeah, I had to undo the camera. The finger hit it. Put a decent layer of goo on that one also. See, I just kind of roll in a nice bead. Losing my spring there. So I put a nice bead all the way in there, so you got a nice good fillet full of it in there. The other one, we'll do the same thing with it. Put another layer of glue on here. Now this would be a one place you could put silicone. Just a little though, not a lot. Don't pour it on too thick. Okay. Pretty well glued up. Spring. These go on the end here. There we go. Okay, now we need a little bit of oil. I'm going to use Silk-Clean fork oil, 30 weight, nice and thick. These old forks need thick oil in them. It's opened already. This one is. Okay, you take out a little bit of fork oil. I'm going to go ahead and put that onto your seal. Right here. You don't want your seals to be dry. And also you want to go into your bushing a little bit. Get everything nice and snotted up. Pre-lube everything is good. I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit on our fork tube right here also. So that way it won't be bone dry on the inside, because I didn't put any oil on the bottom bushing down here at the bottom. Okay. Leave that over there. Okay. Everything's all gooed up. Now for the fun part, putting it together. Alright, we take our tube. You got to hold the spring here, so you just use your leg. Take your fork tube, stick in there, try to keep the goo off of the sealing surface. One disadvantage about pre-lubing. Okay, now you go up to the other side up here and make sure that it's going in the right spot. About 90 degrees off. So I'm going to get my little pair of pliers here to just rotate a little bit. He wants me to. Well, for some reason this one doesn't want to pop in the hole.
We are not available now. Please leave your name and
There
phone
it
number
goes.
after.
Here it go pop. So now the stud is up sticking through far enough to put a nut on there now. The stud's not long enough to catch the locked the nut. This is a little short. Okay, go ahead and take that off. Make sure it's in there all the way where it belongs. Put a little bit of blue Loctite on that thread. There's no locking that's not hitting on the thing, so but just a little bit of help there. Some of these stick up long enough so the Loctite, I mean the lock nut works, other ones don't. It's obvious one it's not. Okay, it's as tight as I can get it for now, until I hold it. Okay, so that one's in there like it's supposed to be for now. Okay, now I get this other one on there before it dries up. The goof is starting to get a little bit harder. Popped right in. I think it did. It's dark so I can't see. What about you? You see in there? I've heard it go pop, so I'm sure it is in there. So I'll grab the flashlight, make sure it's in there good. Yep, it's in there like it's supposed to be. This one looks like it might have enough thread, but I'm going to put a little Loctite on it just to make sure. The camera's way down low, you can't see nothing. So put a little bit dab of Loctite on it. Whoop, that's more than a dab. Suck some of that back. This one here you got to go a little bit deeper in to get to it. Wasn't quick enough for the nut, it flipped out, so it's time to wait at 90 degrees so it doesn't come out. Got to put a little pressure on the spring to tighten the nut up. Flush like it's supposed to be. So why is this one not flush? That I'm not sure about. I looked at it once before. Don't look at it again. If in doubt, check it. I'm having my doubts, so I'm checking it. Where'd the light go? And it appears to be not in the slot. So if you look up in there really close, you can see how it's not quite where it belongs. That's why the nut's too short. So it went pop, but it didn't pop in the right spot. There it goes. That looks like it's in there now. See, now it's in there like it's supposed to be. I don't know if you can see up in there, but looks a lot better than it did. See, I had to check that 3 times. I wouldn't know it's wrong until you put oil in it though. You have a massive leak. Okay, so this time you can see how the nut is flush like it's supposed to be. A lot better. Okay. I'm going to go get my zip gun so I can flash torque these real quick because you can't really torque them. All they do is spin inside real quick. So get our zip gun. That's enough. That's all it takes, one hit. This puts out a lot of torque, so I know what I'm doing with it. You have to know your individual air tools, how much torque it takes to make things tight. Okay, so we got that done. So those should be sealed up and not leaking, and they're assembled at this point, at least that far. Now the tube should go up and down freely, like that. Not exactly freely though. They bind up a lot. Yeah, that's not how they're supposed to be. Jeez. Damn, yeah, that one's in there. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. Obviously, that one's gonna have to wear itself in. Of course, now you get it out of here. That's gonna be a little harder to do. Yeah, it's in there good. Alright, I'll be back in a second. I'm going to go put this in the vise and move it around a little bit. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay. Definitely a tight one. It's moving a little bit better. Still gets tight about halfway down, but it doesn't. Got a few inches where it's working. It'll break in. Obviously it was fitted the other one or something else is going on. You never find ones that are tight. They're always just loose as a goose. So. Something's wrong with that one. It's snug. So that easy just never happens. But I'm not going to worry about it. It's good enough. Especially for this job. Okay, now we got to get some oil in here. And then we got to screw these back down. Now that can be interesting. Got the Jim's tool here. That goes on the end of here. Like that. You run a 1/2 inch zip gun on there to tighten them up. So these ones here, they were all beat to hell, so I had to file and grind these down until my tool would go on there. So you watch the disassembly video, you'll see what we're talking about. Now these have to be compressed, and it looks like you got to compress it about that far to get the nut on there. So you have to go down like that, compress it and turn it until it goes in. Then you can push down and turn at the same time like that. You push down and in, down, turn, down, turn. That way you don't strip the thread out. If you just get the first thread just to grab and start turning it, you can rip the thread right out of the damn thing. So you have to compress the spring to get the load off it to turn it. And usually what I do is I hold this in the vise on this end to make that all work. So that's how we usually do it. So that means we're going to go over to the vise over there. Finish this up over there. So let me get everything switched around and we'll be back. Okay, we're back. I got the fork here in the vise, right down here. Smooth jaw so you don't hurt any damage or anything. And then we're going to put some oil up here in the top. And I got my socket and plug that goes on top right here. And that goes like that. So I can just press down with this and get it to start. Okay, now to put the oil in it, you can put oil right in the middle of the spring, but then it's going to pour down the side and probably go on the outside of your tube. So go ahead and pull the spring out right now. Right now it's clean and dry, so keep it that way. Okay, the fork takes 6.5 ounces of oil wet and 7 if it's dry. It's dry right now, so it takes 7. So here's your ounces right over here. On the first pour, you always give a little extra because it clings to all the surfaces here on the cup. So you give just a little tenth more than what it should have in it. And like I said, this is 30 weight fork oil, so it's pretty thick in there. These old forks take thick ass oil. Okay, so we just pour it on in there, and if it comes right out the bottom, we know we got something wrong, like somebody didn't put the bottom in there correctly. Alright, so there's most of it's all in there. Now we put a little extra in there because we have a little bit of cling. The cling is what sticks in the container. Alright, we let that soak in there just a little bit. Now if you cycle it slightly, it'll help get the oil all the way down. It also lubricates the bushings a little bit. There, you hear it starting to drag coming back up. Okay. If you go too far down, the oil comes out the top, so that would not be good. Okay, so we got the tube all the way up right now. Oh, it helps put this thing back in. Now this one doesn't matter which way it goes, it's the same coil either way. Alright. That was a little bit higher than that before. It's not. Okay, now I gotta compress it that far and to get it to start. Okay, got it started. So what I'm doing, I'm pushing down, then I rotate. You can actually hear the clearance of the threads a little bit. Well, you push down, rotate. Okay, now after you get about halfway on the threads in there, you're all right. Now these forks we got a real coarse thread, so they're not too critical on this. These have old American threads, so they're real thick. The metric forks, the Showa forks, they have a real fine metric thread on them. They're really critical about stripping them out, cross-threading them. These are pretty hard to do that because they're so coarse. But you gotta be really careful in the newer forks. All right, so once you get up there, take the little zip gun here, tighten it up a little bit. That's enough. Now, same deal. These will take more torque than the other forks will too. Okay, so that's in there. So you got dampening. This is like 0 down, not 100% up. See how that works? That's why Harley suspension sucks on these old bikes. There's nothing on the down. It's all rebound dampened. No compression dampening at all, looks like. Yeah, it's nothing going down. It's all up. Yeah, quality stuff. All right, so this one here is good. It's not even leaking out of here yet either. That's even plus. And you want to make sure you stand those forks up so they don't fall over. If they fall over, they might leak oil out of them. See, this one's over here standing up right down here. Now you want to block them in so they can't move around either. Now this one's got nothing in it, so it doesn't really matter, but when you put oil in it, it can leak out. It easily does. Okay, so same deal, pull the spring out. Oop, it's going to lose the spring. Now we can go over here and do the oil gig. So there's our oil right down over there. I don't see it. There. Rack is in the way. Okay, so we got our Socoline oil. Good stuff. They don't make it anymore, at least they don't sell it in the US anymore. Okay, you find your 7-ounce mark and you fill her up. I didn't think this would have 7 ounces left in it. It does. Look at that. I opened the other container up for no reason. And a little bit heavy. Yeah, close enough. It just about used up all the oil in that container. Okay, get the camera back over here. Same deal, pour it in. Slightly high on the oil level. I'm sure it'll make a big difference on this front end. Just let it go until it quits dripping. There, that's close enough. Be here all day waiting for it. Okay. Got another dampener. I mean our other top nut, I mean. Oh, I didn't work the oil in yet. I forgot to do that. This is the tight tube here. It's a little bit more freer with the oil on it. Okay. Still tight down the bottom though. It'll break in. It's a Harley, it'll break in. Okay, I like putting this tool on there to protect my hands so I don't cut the damn palms of them open. Okay, I went this far, stop, get another wind on it, come down, feel it, screw in. It's just trying to start, hold it with the one thumb. There, I got to start that time. I only had like a quarter of a thread grab to hold it the first one. So you push down, rotate. There you go. Okay, put our zip gun back up on there. Okay. Works like the other one. Nothing down, all up. Yep, crap. Okay, so there's how that's all done. All right, I'm gonna get this all back over by the bike and we'll start putting it on the front end. Or on the bike, I mean. We'll be back.